Okay, I hit record, and I'm here with Laura Humm the Great. I think in my last bonus episode, I decided your nickname should be.
The
I don't know if you
great.
listened to that. I was calling you,
I
and then
just got access to it
it
this
was the
week,
one I put
so
out right after you got access. But
oh,
I didn't expect you to listen to it. I did call you Laura the Hum, and then I was like, no, that's a bad nickname. And then I was like, Laura Hum the Great. I was like, that's a better nickname.
the
Yeah.
great. I don't know if I can live up to that.
Huh? Well, you
Uh,
better today. I'm just
All
kidding.
right. All right, I'm gonna bring my A game.
It already starts. Jeff is already being a dick. Yeah, sorry.
I,
Um,
I don't I don't know that calling me the great is being a dick. I feel like that's very hype, unless it
well,
was said mean with sarcasm.
calling you the great and then telling you you have to live up to it is a little like setting a weird trap.
I
That
mean,
wasn't my original intention, but now is very funny to me.
but you know how competitive I am,
I
so
know.
I'm like,
You're like, oh,
well,
I'm gonna
you're
get
gonna
it
name
done.
me the great.
I'm
Well,
gonna get it done.
I'm going to put Alexander in his place. No one is going to remember his name
It's
after
hysterical.
this. They're going to redub
Oh,
Die Hard, where Rickman says, when Alexander saw the breadths of his domain, and they're gonna
they're
get
gonna put
AI
Laura in there.
generated to say, when Laura looked at the breadths of her domain, she wept, for there were no more edits to conquer.
That's hysterical. I love this idea that you have edited all of the manuscripts in the world and there's nothing left to edit. This is my favorite idea. Um,
Oh God.
okay. What if we we're in trouble. We're already in trouble. What have we been like
How many listeners did we
Tom,
just
fast
lose?
forward for 30 minutes, Tom. Fast forward for 30 minutes.
Tom's already gone.
Yeah, Tom's out.
He's,
Tom's like, what? They already started the nonsense. Um,
Tom, Tom heard Laura the Great and was like, I'm
mhm.
out.
Tom sold his bookstore, by the way.
I know, I
I'm
heard
very
that.
excited for him. He's starting a new life as a
Congratulations,
full-time
Tom.
editor, book formatter. Everybody who
Yeah,
needs their book formatted, who needs help publishing, Tom Holbrook. Go look him up, editor Tom Holbrook. I can't say his website off the top of my head. I'm going to screw it up. So just Google Tom Holbrook editor and he comes up. And he is there for all of your editing and book formatting needs. Yeah, dialogue or friend of the show, Tom. Anyway,
now he's going to be sad that he tapped out
that he
when,
tapped out, that he fast forwarded through this, where I said nice
yeah,
things about him. Yeah.
that's right.
Um, okay, what have we been up to? Forget, forget Tom.
Hey,
What have
Tom, what
we
have
been
we been
doing?
doing?
What have
That's
we been
right.
doing? What
We're
this
the
is about
great.
us. This is about us.
That is about
Um,
us. What have you
I
been
think
up
I would
to?
rather be like the Machiavellian, like Jeff the Machiavellian. I think I'd like that title. That's what I want.
Mm,
Yeah. The great has to
okay.
be out in front of everybody. I'd be happy to like be behind everybody. Um,
I I don't know though, because I mean, how often is the general like on the battlefield? I mean, unless you're Maximus, and then of course you're
yeah,
right
then
up
you have
front.
to charge, which you would
Yeah,
be. Though I don't know that another type of journal is acceptable to you.
that's true. That's true. You're right.
It's all right.
Absolutely. Because if I'm gonna win this war, I'm gonna win this
You're gonna
war,
win
right?
this war. Yeah.
I mean, I'm not gonna do it alone. Obviously, the people who are helping me are very important,
Yeah.
but
By the way, Commodus didn't have to go down to the gladiator field to fight Maximus. He could have won that whole story. It didn't have to happen that way.
I mean,
Anyway,
obviously.
yeah. He could I wouldn't have gone down there.
Well, I mean, he
Actually,
also,
I probably just would have killed him and given somebody else's helmet and been like, look,
but
here's Maximus now.
but if you remember, he had other people try to kill him in the beginning and it didn't
And
work,
it
which
did
is
work.
why he ended up being a gladiator in Rome anyway.
Yeah, but that's why you kill him in a cell. You don't let him like and then they're far away, right? Like people sitting in the stands are far away. Just give some other dude that helmet and we're good to go. I don't like, plot holes in movies. Um,
Don't try to pick apart Gladiator.
I love it. It's a great movie.
It is.
Did you see Gladiator 2?
I did.
I
I
apologize,
did.
Tom.
It was better than I thought it was going to be.
Yeah, I liked it
Yeah.
too. I mean,
Yeah.
anything with Denzel.
Yeah.
Denzel's my man.
I I love Denzel, but this was not his greatest performance.
No, no, but even phoning it in, he's like 10 leagues above everybody else. Even like phoning it in. He's
Yeah.
there. Yeah,
Yeah.
he's great.
So,
He's the only person that could get me to watch Macbeth. He's got a black and white Macbeth on Apple TV, and
okay.
I have read many of Shakespeare's plays, and Macbeth is one of my least favorite. But I will watch Denzel. I've watched it twice. I will watch Denzel be Macbeth all day.
Oh,
Yeah. Anyway.
nice.
Yeah.
Nice.
Okay, so what have we actually been up to? Do you want to go
Well,
first?
now you go first. You've been
No,
doing a
you go
lot.
first. You go first.
Why do I have to go
Because you've been
first?
doing a lot too, and you actually have like actionable items coming up.
And you don't?
Hmm.
All right, I'll go. So, the biggest thing that we've been working on is a free webinar and workshop in March for
Two
the
of them.
Hire Casey process. Yeah.
Two of them.
One is March 15th from 2 to 4 p.m. on um it's a Saturday, but it's in Eastern time. We picked Eastern time because we have people literally across the globe who did the Edit Yourself Like a Dialogue Doctor masterclass last year. And this is kind of the follow up to that. So, for those of you who haven't heard of it, Hire Casey is the acronym that we came up for all, like, how complicated can we get in a in an acronym?
It's memorable though. It's memorable, which is why it works.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's all about self-editing and really slowing down your self-editing process. So often we get new authors coming to us saying things like, I've edited this scene 3 or 4 times and it just feels the same. And typically, what we see when you're self-editing and you don't feel like you're making effective progress in your edits is that you're focusing on the wrong thing. So, in the Edit Yourself class last year, and in the book that I am still very, very, very slowly writing, we talk about like the different types of edits and how do you know which type of edit to use and all of that. But we're not doing that in a workshop. That's a mastermind. That was, gosh, that was like 9 weeks of,
Hmm.
and it's going to be like a 4 volume series in the book. No, I'm just kidding. It's going to be one book. I can't write four. Come on. But this is really going to focus on the action of self editing, knowing how to look for and highlight the elements
Mm.
that really are impactful to your reader. And then how do you evaluate those as what you want as the author, what the reader wants as the person who is enjoying the story, and then also putting yourself in the role of the editor. And lots of times I think of our role as the editor as like the go-between or the mediator
Mm.
between the reader and the author. The author really wants to do something great, but it's not always being translated for the reader. So through the Hire Casey process, you actually take all three of those different perspectives at different steps. And then you create a strategy for editing. Lots of times I see authors start to edit and like they're making changes in line one. And I'm like, but if you make changes in line one, what happens in line 20? Or line 50. So it's really about like creating a strategy for editing. So I'm really excited about that. The first one is a kind of a lecture-ish question and answer format where we really kind of dive into each of the steps. So that's fun. And again, it's free. So if you're
Hmm.
interested in it, you can jump over to Teachable and sign up for that. If you can't make it at that time, that's okay. Sign up for it. We'll post the recording on Teachable so you can take a look at it. And then the second one, the follow up is Hire Casey in Action. And that's where some of the people who participated in the mastermind are actually going to show you how they've been applying Hire Casey into their work. We'll put it on the screen and I'll offer some feedback on how each of the steps is being applied, what to look for, how to use it, that sort of thing. And again, lots of time for question and answer there. So, yeah, that's what I've been working on.
Yeah, and just to restate the details, because I want to get them like clear for everybody in case they like um forgot them. So get a pen and write this down. March 15th, 2 to 4 p.m.
Eastern.
Eastern time is the first one. March 22nd, 2 to 4 p.m. Eastern is the second one. Go to dialoguedoctor.teachable.com to sign up for them. They are free, but you do have to register. So
Yeah.
dialoguedoctor.teachable.com.
Yeah.
Okay.
If you don't register, you won't get the link.
Yeah, I'm excited about it. I loved, I mean, what we did in the master class, I loved the process you came up with. I think it was really a very cool brainchild. I'm very excited about seeing you like take it wide now. I think it's really great.
Yeah, I'm excited
Yeah.
for people more than, the cohort that used it gave us some really great feedback on it.
Mhm.
Um, it it is a deep dive into your editing.
Yeah,
When
it
we
really
do,
is.
yeah, when we do edits for the podcast or when we're working, you, JP, and I, we're doing like five of the steps in Hire Casey all at one time.
Hmm.
So I think authors see that and have an expectation that they should be able to do all five steps at the same time. But in reality, if you don't know how to do some of those steps, you can't do it at the same time you're doing other things because you don't really know how to do it. So that's what we're going to do is we're going to slow down to make you faster later.
Hmm. Yeah, it's great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's my
Anything else
exciting
you've been
thing.
working on? Have you watched anything fun or read anything fun recently?
Um, I am reading a series right now about the 1950s, and it's fiction, like I don't know what you call that, like alternate history,
Yeah.
where a meteorite hits the Atlantic Ocean right off of the coast of DC and wipes out like the entire eastern seaboard.
Mm.
And a woman mathematician um, and physicist. She has a PhD in both. Um, helps her husband start the space program to create a space station on Mars because it creates um like what killed the dinosaurs. What do you call
Okay.
that? A
Cataclysmic event.
yes. Yeah,
I don't know if
so
that's what you call it, but
extinction event, that's what they call it.
extinction event.
Extinction event. Yeah,
Nice.
so they're trying to get people on Mars. So it's kind of cool from a sci-fi standpoint, but I like it because it also, kind of talks about what it was like for women in the 50s in the maths and sciences and how they weren't
That's very
given the
cool.
respect that they need and or deserved. Um, and how they had to like play the game to be able to get noticed and that sort of thing. So it's cool. It won a couple of Nebula awards, um,
Nice.
which is actually how I found it. It was on a list. So yeah, that's pretty good.
That's
They're
very cool.
fun. I wouldn't
Yeah.
I wouldn't say they're like groundbreaking or anything. I would say like from a award-winning book, I finally read James, which was
It's
last
great, isn't it?
year's. Oh, it was so
It's
good.
amazing.
So good.
Yeah.
And, masterclass in manipulation of dialogue,
Yeah.
specifically as it relates to cadence
Yep.
and like sentence structure and using, we always get a lot of questions about like how do you write an accent or how do you write um, grammatically the ways people speak,
Yeah.
and it was
It was
fantastic.
great. I really
So
love that book. Yeah.
yeah, yeah, I'm usually pretty skeptical about like the biggest book of the year being as good as people say it was. This one was better than I could have ever
Yeah, it was
imagined.
really good. Yeah, and
So
the like you're saying, the voice modulation is really impressive. It's
yeah.
great. Yeah.
Yeah, you read it too, right?
I
I mean,
did. Yeah, I read
obviously.
it. I'm reading a book a week this year.
Hmm.
And it's been one of my eight so far.
Yeah.
Um, I actually took a break from reading books this week and I read like three or four screenplays. Um,
Nice.
yeah, because I'm trying to learn more about that. But so
Yeah, you're working on a screenplay, aren't you?
I finished it. I finished my first screenplay. It took me 4 weeks.
Congratulations.
Cranked that thing out. I gave it to a friend to read who writes screenplays, Aaron, whose podcast is called Native Tongues. Um,
Hmm.
it's a good podcast. He interviews authors and creatives in general. Um, but yeah, so we're actually meeting for coffee in the morning. I took one of his and read it, and he took mine and read it. But
Nice.
I try to study movie directors because I think they're like kind of the premier creatives of our age, where they have like so much power over giant machines that produce these huge narratives. And so
Hmm.
I've been like looking at them for the past 2 years, like comparing and contrasting, trying to figure them out. And I was way behind in reading my screenplays this week. So I read a whole bunch of Steven Spielberg screenplays
Nice. What'd you
this
read?
week. I read E.T. I read oh, now I'm forgetting the name of it. His first movie that had the movie had Goldie Hawn in it. Um and they're like on a chase across Texas. It's a crazy movie. I read
Raising
Raiders.
Arizona?
No, no. Let me
I
look
was
up the
gonna say,
name
I
real
don't think
quick.
he did.
He didn't. It's yeah, I read uh sorry, I can't think
That's
and
okay.
type at the same time. I read E.T. Raiders, that one, and Close Encounters, but I don't know that the one that I read of Close Encounters was actually the one that is I think it might have been like a just like dictation of the movie.
Mm.
Um, because I was like, this is too close to the actual movie. The Sugarland Express, that's what it was called.
Oh, yeah, I don't
Um,
know
weird
that
movie,
one.
weird movie. But yeah, so I read about, and then I read a couple more. I read Saturday Night by Jason Reitman this week. I read Juno by Jason Reitman. So yeah, I was just reading the screenplays at night.
How do you enjoy reading screenplays?
I do. It's like reading a dialogue only draft. It's great. All you get
Hmm.
is the dialogue. It's really good. Um, I mean, that's not true. There's like descriptions that are very slight, but it's kind of how my brain writes a novel. So I
Mm.
find it very freeing. I really enjoy it. It takes all of the things that I hate to write in novels. It gets rid of them. Setting, one sentence,
Cut it,
one word.
cut it,
Inside house. So
cut
like
it.
this. Yeah. Interior house. Let's go. Like that's all so yeah, I'm really enjoying it. And
That's
the writing my
hilarious.
writing my first screenplay was fun. I don't know that anything will ever come from it. I was just kind of
Yeah,
looking to like get back into fiction in a creative way, and so it was good. Um,
nice.
but I wrote it fast. It may be terrible. I can tell you tomorrow what Aaron thinks of it.
Okay,
Yeah.
nice.
Um, but
Yeah,
yeah, so
I've never read a screenplay. I feel like,
they're fun. There are a lot of them the most of them are free online. You
yeah,
just like Google, screenplay, the
yeah.
title of the movie, and it comes up.
I think I'd have to read one for a movie that I haven't seen
Hmm.
because otherwise I just hear the actor. I feel like I just hear the actors' voices
I like it when I get
reading it.
the version of the screenplay that was later edited for the movie, because then I can kind of see like, okay, this was the intention of the writing before editing got to
Mm,
it. And I really like that. Those are
that's
harder to
cool.
find. A lot of times
Hmm.
what you get online, it feels like to me, I mean, I don't know. I don't know how to make a movie. Maybe it is exact word for the screenplay, but it feels a lot of times I'm reading a screenplay, I'm like, this is suspiciously too much like what's said in the movie.
Mm,
Um, yeah, but anyway, it's a fun. That's what
nice.
I've been reading and enjoying.
That's
Um,
cool.
I highly recommend the movie Saturday Night by Jason Reitman. If nobody's watched it, if you're going to watch to learn the history of Saturday Night Live, don't. That's not what it's about. But here's my plug for the movie for writers. It is the hero's journey when the show is the hero. Not Lorne Michaels, not
Hmm.
Dan Aykroyd, not Chevy Chase. All of those characters are in the movie, but the show is the actual hero and the hero's journey. And it's I brilliantly done. Um,
We Jason liked it. I couldn't watch it.
oh, I loved it. I've watched it 3 times. I
Wow.
really liked it. Um,
Yeah, there was too much. Intensity?
I love the frantic movement of it.
Yeah.
And I'm really impressed by it. I'm like, damn, he kept that thing moving. And
Yeah.
it's in the screenplay. Like it's not
Yeah.
a lot of times comedies you feel like they're being invented, especially like Will Ferrell,
Mm-hmm.
movies. He's like making crap up as he goes along. You can tell like you did
Yeah.
75 takes of this. Or like Robin Williams movies I've
Yeah.
heard are famous for that where they just like put the
There's a
camera on
lot of
him and
ad
just like
lib.
go. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so, but this one in the screenplay, you can feel it.
Yeah.
It's the frantic nature of it's there, and
Yeah.
I really enjoyed it.
I'm glad
And
you liked it.
it is the save the cat pattern. Like that's what's crazy is that
Mm-hmm.
it's one of the first screenplays I've read slash movie I've watched. I think that's why I'm so enchanted by it, where save the cat is happening, but I don't see it. But it is definitely all the beats are there. It is definitely
Mm-hmm.
happening, and I definitely don't see it when I watch it. And I'm like, damn! And that made me go read Juno
Mm.
because he's not the Diablo Cody's the writer of Juno, and it's just I've read it before. It's just a fantastic screenplay. It's really great.
Yeah.
Anyway, yeah. What am I working on? It's funny. Last year. I like put myself out in like 1,000 places and I got a ton of no's. Like, no, we're not interested in you coming to speak or you being on our podcast, which I totally understand. I get probably like 5 to 6 people emailing me a week about can I come on the podcast. Um, this year I did very little and I keep presenting in places.
That's
It's
awesome.
really weird. It's great. I'm
Congratulations.
really excited. I'm super honored, but it's really funny. It's like last year I was working really hard at this and I got a ton of rejections. This year I have put in minimal viable effort and I'm getting like every time everybody I've asked has said yes. So, yeah, it kind of takes away my ability to complain about things. So yeah, this week I put together, I'm speaking at Inkers Con 2025. I can say that because I'm
Yeah.
on their website. That conference is in June, but the sessions are recorded early, so
Mm-hmm.
I'm working on mine now.
Yeah.
Um,
And it's
I've
great.
yeah, I'm really excited about it. You should come to InkersCon because if just to hear me, it's $200 and I think it's 30 talks. You get 2 weeks access to, or they
Yeah.
lay them out over two. I'm not gonna. It says on the website how it happens. Don't listen to me. But I am honored to be among the speakers. Like Becca Syme's going to be there. Tons of people speaking that I'm like, how did I get on this roster? But
Because you're Jeff the
because I'm Jeff the
Ma the
Machiavellian Elkins.
Machiavellian.
Um, that sounds really bad.
I was gonna say Jeff the
That nickname isn't working out how I hoped it would. So anyway, um, yeah, no, I took what I did to prep for the talk is I'm talking about pacing your dialogue for emotional impact, and so I kind of gathered a bunch of straggling things that we talk about all the time. We talk
hmm
about all the time. And I put them into a system of dials. And
Yeah.
so there's 5 dials that we'll go through. And the fun thing, I had confirmed this today, so I can say it. People who listen to the talk will also get my slides, which I think is important because I'm going to cover a
Yeah.
lot of ground.
Yeah.
And I'm putting together a workbook packet for everybody that comes to the
Nice.
talk that like because one of the things that I'm not going to have time to do is analyze famous writers, and so I'm actually going
Mm,
to do that in the workbook packet for everybody. So
that's awesome.
should be really fun.
Yeah.
I'm super excited about
Yeah.
it. And
What I really
yeah, so
liked
go
about
sign up
it,
for IngersCon.
yeah,
Yeah,
sign up for it. It's definitely worth it. And what I really appreciated about it is I feel like pacing, because it's the only part of dialogue that requires other characters to
yeah,
create, it is kind of the middle child of the voice creation, the voice
yeah,
family, right? You know, cadence and language get so much attention from us, and body language of course becomes such a big element, and then we're like, and then there's pacing,
yeah,
right? And then there's pacing. So I love that you're celebrating the middle child of our voice
yeah.
family.
Yeah, that's right. And it's a weird thing because it's like it's actually it's a little like when we started working with character voice at first, where like everybody says it, but nobody knows what it is. But it's like,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, you got to get your character voice right. It's like, well, what's your character voice? It's like, oh, how
Right.
the character is. It's like, all right.
It's how they
So,
talk.
yeah, which is where the dialogue daisy came from. So I think the
Yeah.
five, I hope, I mean, that I hope five is a lot to remember, but I hope the $5 actually
Yeah.
like can help us describe this in a way that's helpful for people.
Yeah. Well, and the
Yeah.
good news is like you can use all of the dials together, or you can
Yeah.
pick and choose which dials are important.
Yeah, to
So,
you specifically. You can be like, I like
yeah.
these two. It's like great.
Yeah.
Use those two. Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, I did
Yeah,
that.
I think it was really smart.
Thanks.
I liked it.
I gave an hour-long workshop to my local writing group, to the Maryland Writers Association, North Baltimore chapter, shout out. Um,
Mhm.
I did an hour workshop for them. It was really fun. It's great. I went through the Daisy, the dialogue Daisy. I went through how to plot, how to design a character voice, and I went through how to uh um how to design a character voice and voice modulation. I did those five, like how to plan voice modulation for your character, either after your first draft or before your first draft. And it went
Nice.
so well, they asked me, they were like, hey, would you, well, I think this is happening, but they, I had some of them talk to me about like, we want this at the conference. So I'll probably be speaking at the
Nice.
conference in October,
Look
the
at
Maryland
you
Writers
go.
Association, which I'm very excited about. That'll be a lot of fun. Again, I was honored to like, hey, let's do this fun workshop. And then to get a call like, hey, I was watching that online and I'm part of the conference. I'd love to get you in the state conference. So that'll be fun
Look
too.
at you.
Yeah, it
I
was
think I have
good.
to
That's
cede
what I'm
my
saying.
title to
Last year I
you.
was like asking everybody, can I come on? And this year I'm like not asking it. I'm like, they're like, why don't you come do this thing too? I'm like, okay. So anyway, it's very honoring and nice. But I like doing the talks because they help me refine how we talk about things. So
Yeah.
yeah, they help like you when you put Hire Casey together. It's like,
Yeah.
okay, now I understand what I'm doing when I edit. It's the same
Right.
kind of thing. I'm like, now I understand when I
Yeah.
tell people get the exposition out of your dialogue. Now I can actually explain like this is why. It's not
Yep.
just that I feel it, it's that this is what's
Yeah.
happening. But yeah.
It's like having a pro athlete coach you in the sport that they play, and they're like, just do the thing.
Just do the thing. Just step,
And
yeah. Just twist your wrist this way to hit that baseball. No, my wrist
right.
doesn't twist that way. Not like yours. I don't know what your wrists are doing. Mine doesn't do that. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. But
Um,
being able to versus in the example that you just gave versus a hitting coach whose job it is to understand
yeah.
and teach the mechanics,
Yeah.
right? Like, yeah, well,
Yeah.
congratulations. I'm
Thanks.
going to cede the great title to you.
No, I don't want
Jeff
that title.
Elkins
It
the
draws
Great.
too much attention. It draws too much attention.
Mhm,
Um,
it's yours now.
the I will say, so this is just a funny story. My 15-year-old is obsessed with basketball. He's obsessed. And his grandmother for Christmas, my mom, bought him these basketballs that are meant to be dribbled indoors. They're like foam basketballs, but they bounce like real basketballs. And
Neat.
he dribbles them all the time. All the time.
Oh, can
He's
you hear
dribbling the
them
basketballs. I can
all the
hear them
time?
in the basement all the time. Yeah.
Oh my
But, and it doesn't bother me so much. But what's funny, the funny part of the story is he's gotten into watching clips on Instagram of basketball players doing moves. And as you're like walking through the living room, he'll come up to you and be like, look, it's the Kobe, it's the Kobe, it's the Kobe. And he's doing this thing over and over again with the ball. He's like, you try it. And I'm like, my body doesn't work that way. So, so there's a like that reminded me of that.
God.
Yeah. But he's doing that to me all the time now. He's like, LeBron, LeBron. And he just like does this like dribbling move. And I'm
That's
like, I
awesome.
can't do that. That's not, yeah. Anyway. Um, yeah. I don't know why that story doesn't relate to anything just besides it's a fun story. All right, let's get back on track. So we have,
I don't think we were
were
off
there any more
track.
updates? I
No,
feel like I'm off track.
I feel like we've talked about updates.
I talked too much about my stuff. That's why I feel like I'm off
You
track.
did not talk too much. I talked for like 9 hours about Hire Casey.
The higher Casey deserves that amount of time. All right.
I know.
Let's talk. We got questions. We asked as we do. We asked the dialoguers, hey, send us your questions. And they sent us one, two, three, four, five, six questions. which one do you want to take first?
Mm,
Do you care? Do you
I
want me to
don't.
go first? I'll take one first.
You go first.
Okay. How the hell do you plot a long series? Like eight plus books. Did you want to take this one?
No, go for it.
Okay. Um, this is a great question. How do you plot a long series? Because it is difficult. Because if you were doing it based on the plot itself, so let me define that term. The plot are the the beats that happen that align with reader expectations that usually involve events in the world of the story. So, the plot is events in the world of the story and how your characters are responding to them. And they are intended to match and surprise reader expectations. So, romance has certain plot beats, science fiction has certain plot beats. Uh, Historical fiction has certain plot beats, and that there, what you're doing is you're like, okay, this is the basic path of the journey that the reader expects to take. It is not your story. Your story is how the characters are growing and changing, and you show that character growth and change through the character's interaction in the plot beats. So let me distinguish those again because I'm about to tell you how to plot a long series. You got to know the difference between the two. The plot beats are events that happen in the world that your character is reacting to, that align and surprise reader expectations. The story, the emotional journey, the character that your reader is on, is actually the story of a character growing and changing. So you can say, I want this story, and then decide what plot beats to put it to, right? Like that's kind of the difference. So, how do you plot a long series? If you're trying to plot a long series based on the plot beats, you're going to exhaust yourself because, especially an 8 book series, because it's going to feel like, oh my gosh, how do I get from the start of this to the end of this? It's going to be very
Hmm.
overwhelming. It's going to feel like it's going to feel repetitive. You're going to be like, oh my gosh, I keep repeating the same plot. How many times can I do the save the cat plot beats ad infinitum, as Jason Reitman has showed us with Saturday. Anyway, so how do you like, if you're doing it that way, you're going to find yourself burning out or feeling like you're in some kind of weird loop. The way I
Hmm.
recommend you plot 8 books is for each book, take a character and go, okay, who is this character at the start of the story and who are they at the end of this story? And then ask yourself, what steps of change do they need, positive and negative, to get there that forms an emotional journey I want to take the reader on? If you think about how the character is changing, now you can put the events of the story on top of that. Right now, you can layer the plot on top of it. But the way you plot a long series, like let's just take Percy Jackson, right? Percy Jackson has, I think, 10 books. I think there's four.
I think there's five in the first and five in the second.
Yeah, five in the first Percy Jackson series. And then when we
Hmm.
get to the Jason series where Jason joins, we get another five. Each book, Percy, in the first 5 books, Percy is growing and changing in a different way. So that at the
Hmm.
end of each book, he's a little more mature, he's a little less cynical, immature punk, and he's a little more the hero we want to see. Tell in the final and the last book, in the Battle of New York, he's behaving like the hero of Greek tales, where he's, managing large armies and running around accomplishing heroic tasks and doing things self-sacrificially, right? Like so, but that's not a like, oh, I've got this plot arc here to go. What drives that story is Percy changing and growing in every book. So get the
Hmm.
growth arcs down and then put the plot on top of it. And you'll find
Hmm.
if you're plotting long books, like long series, you'll find that like, okay, I know I want this character to go from here to here. You might be like, oh, this is probably 2 books. And then if you're like, and I want character B to grow from this to this, You might find like, oh, characters B book and characters A second growth arc actually happen at the same time. And now you can start like aligning plot lines, right? Like that's
Hmm.
if you think about like a massive series like Game of Thrones, what is Game of Thrones? We are following specific characters as they grow and change. We watch Jon Snow at home in the north. We then watch him separate from the family that he has loved as his um, abductor goes south to try to arrange things at the capital, and John goes north to the wall. And then we watch Jon Snow's maturity at the wall from being the outcast to the leader to in the books being dead. So like I'm spoiling the crap. I don't care. They're so
It's
old.
old enough.
Yeah, I don't care. Go read it. I didn't really spoil it for you because there's like 10 other character arcs, right? Like you watch Anya Sark go from being the like girl who wants to be more to being the brutal assassin. You watch Sansa going from like the kind of withering violet to the shrewd politician. That's the story, right?
Hmm.
Like, and then the happenings of Westeros are just what's being piled on top of that. But what makes that story go is the transformation of these characters. What makes the story long is there's so many damn characters that you have to have a giant epic story to cover all of their growth arcs. Yeah.
So, what you've described is how to write a serial series. The other way you can do it is to write an episodic series. So, like Lemony Snicket's series of unfortunate events. The children don't actually grow book to book. You're just taking the same characters and you're putting them in another situation. It's the idea behind Supernatural or the Law and Orders, where every episode is its own little mini, but then across the whole series, yes, there's growth, but
Yeah,
they don't
they
grow
still have to
quite as
learn
much.
something in every episode. And they do. In the series
They
of
do.
unfortunate events, every book's the kids learn something.
Yeah,
Usually
but
about
it's not,
themselves and their origin. Like there's a driving mystery of self-understanding in those books.
yes.
And so every book the characters have to learn something and change in some way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But you can also read them out of order
Yeah,
and not
totally.
have, whereas often in a series you need to read them in order to understand. So I absolutely agree with you that the way you write it is still the same,
Yeah.
but if you are looking to write more of an open-ended series, creating your core characters and so I read a lot, like a lot of series I feel like that have that you have the same characters year after year after year after year.
Yeah.
They're growing, but their growth happens much in much smaller increments. Like in the series of unfortunate events, sometimes the only thing they learn is one element about their parents, and they needed 13 elements to figure out their
Yeah.
story.
And I
So,
you're right, it doesn't matter what order they learn those elements in,
yeah.
but I still think if you want to write an episodic series of an unfortunate events, rather than trying to come up with something that happens in each episode, you'll drive yourself insane. You'll be done by like 5 episodes. You have to base it on what is the character learning or growing with in this episode, and then you can keep writing forward. But you have
Listen,
to center it on the character. You can I like because there's not enough unless you're writing with a team, right? Like writing with a team helps because you're not on your own to come
yeah.
up with what happens in every episode. But
Yeah.
even with nerds, like we wrote 67 episodes for the Vela of Nerds. Every episode, I before I when JP plots it and before I write it,
Mhm.
we have to know like, okay, what's happening to the characters in this episode? Like we
Mhm.
got to know, and I'm supposed to pick it back up for the dash, but we're 28, 29 episodes into the second book, and it's every episode is like how are the characters growing and changing, and then that lets us put the like, oh, and they need to accomplish this weird thing. But a lot of times, some of the best chapters didn't come from, like some of the best episodes, because it was written as a serial, some of the best episodes didn't come from, hey, this is the plot arc. Like some of the best
Hmm.
episodes actually have nothing to do with the plot of the story. They're literally like you could pull them out and they'd have the story would not be impacted by their absence in any way, shape, or form. But they're the episodes that feel like there's one specifically called Ghost Orgy. It has nothing to do with the plot of the episode. You could literally take it out of the plot and you would not
Yeah.
miss it at all. But it is the most of in our reviews, it's the most talked about episode. People literally are like, I love, and the reason is because it's when Bryce and Ethan fall in love. And that's why it's the episode that
Hmm.
like people love. Now, it's a side plot. It's like a B story, and they could literally fall in love in the next episode. I think they fall in love again.
Hmm.
So it's like, but it's that like it's that character change that like you plot for. I feel like we've beat this question to death.
I think so.
Do you have
I think
anything
we're
else
good.
to add about it? I think
Nope.
we've okay.
I think we're good.
All right, you take one.
I like this one. I like them all, but this one is the one that I am excited about today. What questions do you wish people ask when reaching out to see if you're a good fit and you want to
Oh,
work
that
with
is a good
them?
question.
Yeah. So, um, when people reach out to us, we always encourage them to do either a single chapter or a single session before they commit to us reading their whole book or doing a block of coaching. And the reason that we do that is because every editor brings a little bit different style and a little bit different focus to the table. And as an author, you have to be open to the type of feedback and focus that the editor is bringing to the table. If you are at a place with your manuscript and you want a grammatical edit and you want to make sure that your voices sound um, different from one another, and you work with an editor who reads your story and says, I can help you with the grammar and I can help you with the voices, but I'm also seeing suggestions for your plot development or your character growth. And you're like, I don't care about that. That's going to be a mismatch. So um, I think kind of if you're working with a new editor, always, 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 please, please, please ask them their philosophy on what an editor's role is and make sure that aligns with your expectations. If you want an editor who is just going to tell you exactly what to do, and you have an editor who wants to be a collaborator, that's going to be a mismatch. If you have an editor that you just want to be able to hear the reader's perspective and then do whatever you want and not actually care, that's fine too, but just figure out, find the editor who matches what your expectations are. If you are open and you really just want to learn craft and you want to write the same chapter 5 times, but you're working with an editor who's like, I read your chapter once and then that's, it's done. That's going to be an important element too. So I definitely think my answer is in 2 parts. It's not just about what you ask, it's about knowing and understanding what your own expectations are.
Yeah, good answer.
So, do you have anything
Good
that you
answer.
would add?
I don't have anything to add to that. That was a great answer.
Hmm.
Um, all right,
All
which
right,
one do you want me to take next? I could do any of these.
do it.
Do
Pick
you
it.
have a okay? I'm just going to do this one because it's fast. If AI
Okay.
is used in the editing process, how is how is this disclosed to the editor, or does it need to be? Is there any need for transparency from the author here? No. Your editors work for you, right? As an editor, when you hire me to edit your book or to do a session with you, I work for you. You don't have to disclose anything to me. And my name's not going on the book. Like you're not putting me in the book. Like it's this is your book. I'm literally making suggestions based on my particular experience and knowledge to help you create the book you want to create. And I think that's key. Like it's about helping you create the book you want to create. So if you used AI to write, or if you used AI in the editing process and you like it to like proofread before you give it to an editor, and you are like either you just don't want to disclose that because you don't want like the judgment that can possibly come along with it, or you just don't, you owe no one no explanations. Now, some distributors want to know. Like if you publish your book on Amazon, they're going to ask you what you used AI for. And I don't think that is to judge you. I think it's because they're trying to find ways to make money on AI. But that, like, there are people that will ask you to disclose. Editors should not care. And if they do care, I'd be like, why do you care? Um,
So,
yeah.
but that goes back to the question before. What question do you need to ask?
Hmm.
Right? Like if an editor asks you, did you use AI? You have to decide, is this an
Yeah.
editor
Is this the editor I
who,
want to work with?
and
Yeah.
again, it goes back to the philosophy of the editor. You and I and JP, we are all in agreement that like it's your book. You're gonna
Yeah.
put your name on it, do
That's
whatever
true.
you want.
That's a
But
good addend. Yeah.
I'm not, I can't speak for the rest of the editors because I don't know a huge number of editors, but I think that's
That's true.
something
You
that,
may have an editor that hates AI,
yeah,
but you don't owe it to any, you don't have to disclose anything to
yeah,
anybody.
yeah.
Um,
And if you don't want to work with that person, don't work with that
yeah. And
person.
again, like you could pay them to edit. I don't know why you would do this, but you could pay somebody to edit someone else's book. And the editor's not publishing the book. They're not distributing the book. That's you. The editor is literally just doing a service for you.
Yeah.
So, yeah, but you're right. There might be some editors that are like, "Did you use AI? I don't want to work with AI." Take a step back and be like, "Do I want to work with that editor?"
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Um. Anyway, yeah. Okay, that's mine.
All
Your
right.
turn.
I like
Your
that
turn.
one. I'm gonna take the I think this one's a little challenging, so I'm gonna need some help on this one.
Okay.
Um, thoughts about leaving work to be published posthumously,
I love this
posthumously,
question. This is we've done
posthumously.
like 10 of these, and this is the first time anybody's asked this, and I love it.
I know, I
It's
love
great. This is
this.
a great question.
So I actually like obviously I knew that a lot of authors' work gets published posthumously, and same with all art, right? Like often things aren't found. But I was actually shocked by this idea that like an author would maybe choose to be published um, after they are no longer on this celestial plane or whatever ideas you have about death. Um, I thought it was interesting. So I did a little bit of work. The author who submitted this gave some names: Gabriel Garcia Marquez, R.M. Vaughn, and Mason Colley were Andrew Piper were examples that they gave. And a couple of other famous ones: Anne Frank's diaries were published after her death. Malcolm X's autobiography was published after his death, right? Like, so there there are times
One
where,
of my favorite, Franz Kafka, was mostly published by his friend after his
mm,
death, and Emily Dickinson famously was
right,
published after she died. Yeah.
right. So in a lot of those cases, those were stories that were created and the author didn't have a publishing forum, right? Like on Frank's diaries were written
Well,
in, right? Like she didn't have the chance.
yeah, yeah.
Malcolm X,
Nobody was knocking on Anne
like,
Frank's door asking her to publish the books.
right,
They were knocking on the door
exactly.
for other reasons. Yeah.
Exactly. Emily
Is that
Dickinson.
insensitive? That was
No,
insensitive. I'm sorry.
I
I
was,
apologize. It's
there
just a
was,
funny example.
yeah. But that's what I'm saying is like in a lot of instances when things get published after our death, Emily Dickinson, for example, did she have a publisher she could work with? And a lot of these were published back before we had indie publishing, right? Like we didn't, Emily Dickinson did not have the internet to
Yeah,
be able to be like,
she didn't have KDP. Yeah.
right. So I would
Or
say
draft to
like
digital.
as you're thinking about this, and then um some of the other examples, I can't remember the author's name right now, but one of the authors was actually writing their novel while they were going through chemotherapy. And
Mm,
unfortunately, they passed away before their book was published. So, in a situation like that, where you don't have control over the outcome of your life and you're preparing a story to be published after you're gone, that's that's one that's one situation where you have to do what you have to do in order to finish your story and get it into the world. Um, but my question would be, if you're not facing the end of your life, what is your goal in waiting until after you are gone to publish? Is it because the story you're telling is going to create chaos and turmoil, in which case you do you, right? Like, if I'm going to write a book about my family that's like a
yeah,
tell-all, yeah, I'm probably going to wait
yeah.
after I'm gone,
Might want to
right?
have a dead man switch on that one. Yeah.
Right? Like, so, I, but I do think that because we're in this world of indie publishing, waiting until after you're gone to publish, if you have the choice, you can't then go and promote. A lot of authors right now in the indie space are becoming famous because they're the ones who are out there putting their time and their effort and their energy into getting their books out there. So, if you are going to leave instructions for how you want your book published, be specific and probably leave a little bit of money
It's
for
kind
them
of like
to help
it's
you.
kind of like leaving somebody a puppy in your will. I don't know that. Here's this thing. Yeah, I think I feel this may not be true, but I feel a tension in the question that I think a lot of authors face today because it is generally considered odd to create art that you never intend to sell in our world. It's generally considered odd to write books that you don't intend to sell. There's an assumption, and I will blame capitalism. There's an assumption. Do you have a bingo card? Jeff blames capitalism. There's an assumption in our world that when you are publishing, when you are writing something, it's because you want to be Nora Roberts, John Grisham, you know,
Mm-hmm.
the next wealthy author, or because you're pursuing fame. You want a Pulitzer, you want a National Book Award, you want something. I think in this question, there's a like, what if I just write to write?
Mm-hmm.
And I think that is beautiful. I think it's really great. I mean, you were also talking to a guy who just wrote a screenplay just for the hell of it, right? Like, I think it's really fun just to, like, sometimes we just need to do art to do art. When I first started writing, I was writing short stories before I got any bug about them being potential income for me. And they were literally just stress relief. I was just trying to get, I was in a very stressful job and I was just trying to get through every day. And after my family went to bed, sitting down and I would use a random number generator to pick a Grimm's fairy tale off of Wikipedia and I would rewrite the fairy tale in a modern day setting. And so that I like that was what I was doing every night
Mm-hmm.
to relieve stress because it was a fun puzzle to work out. And I think there's something, and a lot of those were only published on my personal blog at the time, and which doesn't exist anymore. And there was something healing in that for me. And I worry in our like, you know, Spaceballs 2, the search for more money, we forget that sometimes art can just be for art's sake. So I feel that in this question a little bit. Like, can I
Mm.
write things and maybe leave them to be published after my death? You can. You're just not allowed to have any expectations if you do that. I mean, who cares? You're dead. But, you know,
I mean,
like
you might Jacob Marley them and come back and
this,
tell your writing partner that
where
you're
are
going to
my
be
books? Yeah,
that you're going to be
publish
visited
my
by three ghosts.
books. Um,
Also, if somebody leaves you
It
instructions to
goes to Facebook
publish their
past.
work
So
after they are gone, I feel like that's a wish that you can honor.
yeah, it is because it's actually pretty easy to publish a book these
Yeah.
days. What's the problem is if like you're like make my book a New York Times bestseller after I die. You
Yeah,
can't
no,
do that.
that's not
Yeah,
you
that's not fair. So anyway,
make me
yeah.
Emily Dickinson after I'm gone. Yeah,
Yeah.
you
At the
can't
same time,
choose.
I'm all if you're writing for the love of art and you don't plan to make money, you can publish books for free. It actually doesn't cost anything to
Hmm.
publish a book on Draft to Digital or on Amazon. It cost like so if you want to share it that way, you can totally do that. It costs to buy editors. It costs to buy cover designers. But the truth is, you can literally just write in Microsoft Word. You can have Amazon create your cover for you. KDP will do it for free. And then you can throw that book up as a Kindle just for your own entertainment because that's the world we live in. And it's now, is that book going to get discovered and get you a Pulitzer? That is very likely no. But I can almost say with 100% certainty, hell no. But is it something like, I am a proponent of even if you're just writing art for art's sake, share it. Find a way to share it with the world. You can get a website for free. You can like post it
Yeah.
for free on a blog. I think you can actually still get like a blog spot, which is really funny to me
Hmm.
because those have like gone way out. The last time I saw somebody with a blog spot was like 10 years ago, but I'm pretty sure they still exist. And you can just come get one and put it up. So anyway, that's yeah, I do encourage people to share their work, but I kind of feel that tension behind this question. I don't know. Oh, part of the question too is are there any publishers looking for dead authors? Not unless you were wealthy and famous before you died. Like, if I don't know, Jeff Bezos died and they found somebody's like, hey, I found his memoir. Yeah, publishers want that. But, if I died tomorrow and people were like, hey, there's this unpublished memoir called Love Like Jesus that Jeff wrote for a year and a half and then never published. No publisher wants that. They didn't want it when I was alive. They don't want it now either. So anyway, yeah. That's a long answer for a fun question. And
I don't know.
I
It
probably
was
killed it.
something that I hadn't really thought about. That was a good pun there. You just
What?
said I probably killed it.
Yeah, I probably killed it. Yeah,
Yeah,
thank you. Thank you for
that was a pretty
recognizing
good
my
pun.
puns.
I
Um,
got you. I see you.
yeah. I'm
I
here all
see you,
night,
pun.
people. Tom's like, no, don't be here all night. Okay.
Poor Tom. Again, he stopped listening an hour
He
ago.
stopped listening now, yeah. Okay,
I do
what's
want to
next?
start looking at the statistics of when, like, what are we talking about when people are like, no, I'm done. I tap out here. But
I don't pay attention to that.
I know.
Okay. So
I'm
because
gonna
it
do a
would
deep
actually shape my
dive.
behavior and I don't want my behavior shaped.
Yeah. I'm gonna
Uh
do a deep dive. I'm gonna analyze all of our past Q&As. If I had
it's funny.
time, I would
Oh,
love to do that. I think that's probably a good
it's a good
AI.
AI project.
Yeah.
Yeah, I am already such an anxious and self-conscious person that if I did that kind
Mm.
of deep dive, I'd never be able to speak into a microphone again. Um, Ignorance is what sustains me. Okay, my turn to pick one.
Your turn.
Um, oh, these are all tough.
Are
Okay,
they?
I'm gonna take. I just don't know how to answer them besides saying no. Should you? Did I tell you my? So something I do with my kids all the time is they'll ask me a question and I'll say no, and then I'll go, wait, 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 ask me again, and then they'll start asking. I'll go, no. So, and then I'll laugh. My son Jackson made me a sticker for my desk. It's a
Hmm.
silhouette of my face and it says, wait, 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 ask me again, which I love so much. Anyway.
Yeah. That's the Machiavellian in you,
Oh,
right?
it's so fun. So should you send your manuscript to 2 to 3 beta readers and revise before paying for a developmental editor? It's a good question. There are no rules around when you hire an editor, how many editors you hire, what you do with your manuscript before you send it out. There are no rules. So after I wrote my first book, I was super poor. Well, when I wrote my first book, I was super poor. I could not pay for an editor. Like I literally couldn't pay for an editor. Um, I, working for uh, 12 years in the nonprofit space will do that to you. 15 years in the
Hmm.
nonprofit space will do that to you. So I wrote my first book and I had to ask beta readers to read it because I
Hmm.
didn't have any other help. And lo and behold, that's how I learned Laura was an amazing editor. Um,
Also, you were so poor that your beta reader bought you lunch.
she did. It was great. I was like, "Hey, read this for me," and you're like, "All right, let me take you to lunch." Um,
I mean, how
so,
else do you deliver bad news except over over lunch?
at
You're
Panera, where there's a lot of people around. So anyway, uh, yeah. So there's no rules. I will say though, beta readers and developmental editors give you different kinds of advice, and developmental editors also, like Laura was saying earlier, have specialties. Some of them are going to focus on specific genres. We focus on dialogue and characterization. Like we have specialties. So, you know, I've had clients give me a manuscript and be like, hey, this person edited it for the romance beats. I want you to edit it for character voice. So, like, what you do with your manuscript, depends on what your war chest is, how much money you have to spend on this thing, knowing in today's market it's unlikely you will make it back. So how much money do you have to spend on it, and knowing that a good chunk of that money should go into marketing if you want to make money back on the book. So one is that's part of your decision. So if you have friends that are big readers that read in the like kind of range of what you're writing and you want to ask them to read it, I think that's great. And then if they give you notes and you're like, man, I feel like the notes they're giving me have to do with characterization, well, then find a developmental editor that deals with that. Or they're like, it doesn't feel like a romance. You said it was a romance. It doesn't feel like a romance. You're like, I want it to be a romance. Go find a developmental editor that edits romance and like get help with that. My one piece of advice here is though, don't stack editors. Don't get two people editing a manuscript at the same time. It's a waste of money because they're likely to tell you to give you the same advice and or give you contrasting advice. So I recommend if you're going to do beta readers, do 2 to 3 beta readers. Have them read it. Wait for them to read it. Go work on the next book while they read it. And then when they give you back notes, fantastic. Take those notes and make the changes. Or don't make the changes if you don't like them. And then if you're like, I still need more, then go get a developmental editor. But don't do beta readers while you're doing a developmental editor because stacking them like that, you kind of betrays one or the other.
Mhm.
Um, the other thing I'd say is there's a lot of advice out there about beta readers. I really liked how I used beta readers when I was first using them. Um, with Laura, I just handed her the manuscript. I was like, cut it up. But with my other, I gave it to 10. My first book, I gave to 10 people to read. I asked them first. I didn't just surprise them with a book. I was like, hey, I'm trying to learn how to write a novel. I know you read a lot. Would you read it? They said yes. I said, what format do you want it in? Most of them told me to print it out. And so I
But
actually
that also was a long time ago before e-readers were really
It was. It
as
was a long time ago before
everywhere.
e-readers were a big deal, and before you could like put a PDF on a Kindle.
Yeah.
So Kindles only took Mobi files. So I actually did a side hustle job for a couple hours and got enough money to go to Kinko's and print out copies of them. And I delivered them to everybody's door in manila envelopes. And I had a letter on the front that was like, hey, I don't expect you to treat this like you're an editor. This is what I'm looking for. And I had like 10 questions. And one of those questions was like, where did you stop reading? What did you not understand? What's too complicated? It was a multi POV book. I was like, which characters did you like? Which ones did you connect with? Because I was literally trying to figure out how does how do novels work? And so um when you give it to beta readers, My advice is know what you want from them and give them very clear instructions. If you give somebody, if you just hand somebody a manuscript, like, hey, read this and leave notes on it, you're likely to get back notes like, meh, or like, it was pretty good, right? Like, and those aren't helpful notes. You want specific notes on what you're doing. So if you're going to use a beta reader, ask them specific questions. I know JD Barker famously has some like, I think it was JD Barker who gave this advice. I think it was. I might be wrong. I'm going to give it to him anyway because it's good advice. So he'll like that he has it. There's, I think it was him who talked about he actually has some readers that read his work and he asks them to make a line in the text whenever they stop reading. So if they put the book down to go do something else, put a line there. And that like tells him this is where people are stopping. I should work to make this more thrilling because I don't want people to put down the book. So there's a, he knows exactly what he wants out of those readers and he's given them a system to give him that. So if you're going to use beta readers, be specific with them. Um, and then give them time to do their thing before you hire an editor.
Yeah. And I would just add to that, um, beta readers are not editors.
No.
They will often give you feedback like, I didn't like this, or I always love it with when an author comes to me and is like, my beta readers told me that I need to do more of this in my
Mhm.
story. And when a beta reader gives you a suggestion for what you should be doing, often it's not necessarily that that's what you should be doing, but you have to sometimes have to reverse engineer the feedback from the beta readers
Mhm.
to get to the heart of why are they giving you this suggestion? What's the problem here? Because most beta readers, you ask them to read because they are avid readers. But avid readers, while yes, they understand genre tropes and yes, they understand character growth and they can talk to you about the things that they connect with a story, most of them don't study craft the way that other
Mhm.
authors do. So, talking about how a story is crafted may not always come across in what they're requesting. So, when you're getting that feedback from the beta readers, try to understand the why of what they're asking for. So, like in the case of what JD Barker is asking for, with like, this is where I stopped reading, he knows to ask that question because he knows how to manipulate the story
Mhm.
in a place that's boring. So, or allows somebody to get distracted, right? So
Yeah.
like making sure that you're managing your expectations about the feedback that you are going to get. And this is the same, it's true when you're hiring an editor. If you're hiring an editor to focus on romance, you can't always expect that editor to also be good with character voice. If you're hiring somebody who's focusing on your story,
Mhm.
they may not also be good at character growth. So going back to that question about what should you be asking when you are working with a new editor, what is your specialty? What are you going to be looking for in my story? Always a good question.
Yeah.
So,
Can I just throw the next question in here real quick?
yeah, do it.
How many proofreaders do you need before you publish a novel? The answer is until you're satisfied. That's
Good
the answer.
answer.
Yeah. I actually didn't have anybody proofread my first three novels, listened to earlier conversation about being poor. Um, but yeah, you proofread it until you're satisfied and then stop. There's gonna be errors in it. I don't care who
Mm-hmm.
proofread it. There's gonna be errors. I was reading a, traditionally published, pretty famous novel a couple weeks ago, and I found two typos in it. Like it's
Mm-hmm.
just it's part of writing. So
Yeah.
so you get proofreader, you proofread the thing until you're done, and
Agreed.
then you stop and publish it. Yeah. Anyway, um, all right, you want to take the last one?
Yeah. How do you deal with large groups of people talking in one scene? Example at a war table. Um, so I think that easiest way to handle large groups of people are to group people and create a chorus. Um, Madam Secretary, um, it's a was a TV show. It's not a book,
Good
but
pull. It's on
it's
Netflix. You can watch it all on
oh,
Netflix.
it's so amazing.
Yeah.
Um, she has a like at least once every episode, she has a round table with her staff. There are 15 people at the table. Most of them are just filler and they never have a speaking line. So if you have a war table where the expectation is people at the table aren't going to speak, they become a chorus and you can say things like everyone nodded or so and so took notes, right? Like you don't actually have to have them actively engaged in the conversation. Um, Figure out who your main speakers are and make sure that they all have opportunities to talk. Um, if you're editing a scene like this, I highly, 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 highly recommend color coding so you
Mhm.
can see when each person who is a major player or the chorus are involved in the scene to help keep it balanced. I also often find, especially like at a war table, creating camps, not
Yeah.
choruses, but camps. Like this group is pro, this group is con, this group is undecided. And then somebody from each camp can participate as the discussion goes. So it doesn't feel like every topic has to be like every single person, because that's boring when it's like, who has something to say? And then you round table and everybody says something, and then the person who's in charge says something else, and never like that gets really old really fast. So creating systems where you're grouping people together, or and body language is a huge thing in a large scene. Somebody says something and looks around the room, everyone else nods. You're keeping everybody involved in the scene without everybody necessarily having to have a speaking role.
Yeah. That's great.
Anything
Um,
else to add?
no, I don't think so. You covered it. I don't have anything to put to that. Um, the color coding is really, really smart.
You know, I
Okay.
love a color code.
Yeah, I know. Yeah. The more rainbowic the manuscript, the
That's
better.
right. That's right.
Um, is rainbowic a word? It's a word now.
It is now.
It's a word now.
We
Um,
have dubbed it so.
we've dubbed it thus. Okay, last question. The Dash, our Dialogue Dash, which is our community writing program where we plan together for 30 days, we write for 30 days, and then we set ourselves up for a strong edit for 2 weeks. 80-day writing program starts on March 31st. So this is our fourth one,
Our
fourth
fourth one.
dash.
Um,
Laura,
let me before you go,
yeah,
it runs April, May, and the first half of June.
yep,
Now keep going.
yeah. What are you most excited about for this year's dash?
Office hours.
Well,
Office hours. I love office hours. We
you do have
we
the best ones.
I mean, I am
Was
the
there
great.
any
I am
question?
the great.
Was there any question?
So, we each of the coaches, for anyone who hasn't participated in a dash, if you haven't participated, do this one,
What is
right?
wrong
Like
with you?
there's no time like this time to do it. And if you've done it before, come back. We heard a lot when we ran it the second time, people saying things like, well, I did it last time. Do I have to do it again? You don't, obviously you don't have to do anything, but really, Jeff, you always say writing is a team sport, right?
Yeah,
This is your team.
here's your team. Come
You
ride as a
know,
team.
the goal here, and this is why I love office hours so much, is my office hours are Thursday nights at 9:30 Eastern, so we can hit the West Coast. And then JP's are Wednesdays at 7 a.m. Eastern, and yours are
JP's are at 5 a.m. Eastern. I'm just
no,
kidding.
they're
I
at
keep moving
7
him
a.m.
forward.
Eastern.
Yeah.
And then yours are
Tuesdays at 4
Tuesdays at
Eastern.
4.
Yeah.
But what I love about them is we tend to get the same group week after week. So for like 11 weeks, we get to like come together and talk about what we're working on, talk about what our successes are, what our struggles are. And if you have questions, you bring them to the group and just that, like, what's everybody doing, the camaraderie of it. I think it's just amazing.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun. I think for me, the dash is kind of where new people come into the community, and not all, but many of them stay past the dash. And
Hmm.
I think that's what I look forward to most. I look forward to like, who am I going to get to meet this time around?
Yeah.
Um, and there's a lot of people in the community that came in through a dash, and I'm like, I don't know what our community would be like without that person. So
Yeah.
it's a cool, yeah, I really think that's a cool thing about the dash. So
I love that.
yeah, no matter where you are in your book, whether you're like just you're kicking off or you've been like wrestling with it for years,
Hmm.
the dash is going to help you sort it out.
Yep.
Mostly because there's a community of people coming around you that want to encourage you as you encourage them, right? Like
Yeah.
we all rise together. So
Yep.
yeah, that's what the dash is for.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And the way we have it set up is in April, we'll talk about planning. In May, we'll focus on writing. And then in June, we'll talk about preparing for the edit.
yeah,
That said, if you are in a heavy editing phase and you're feeling very isolated, join the dash
yeah,
because the planning information can help you with your editing. The writing time can help you with the rewrites. The editing time can help you focus on the stuff that you're focusing on. If you've been writing and you don't need to go back and plan, still join the dash and just write through the planning month. You get the whole workbook right up front.
yep,
Just use the logs for the whole time. Like, we really encourage you to make the dash your own. And it's really about the community and less about the structure.
yeah. Good answer. All right. Any final words? We're out of questions.
I have one more question for you.
Oh, okay.
Did I live up to the title? No, don't
Oh,
answer
yeah.
that. Don't
Of
answer
course
it.
you're in the title. What are you talking about?
I was
Always.
expecting you to go, no, wait, ask me again.
Always. No, that's mean if it's not to my children.
I mean, but
To my
it's
children,
that's
it's
your
funny.
but you're Jeff the Machiavellian.
It's true.
So that's
It didn't even occur to me to do that. Which makes me sad. All right, I'm
should we
gonna
try it again?
yeah, yeah, we should try it again.
Okay. But you should stop the recording first.
Okay, well.